Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm doing my mid-lane champion presence tier list, so if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, and let's get into it. To begin with, this is going to be slightly harder than the other two, as the mid-lane pool is probably one of the ones which has shifted the most, with newcomers like Syndra and Orianna really gaining a lot of traction. Alongside that, we've seen changes to a couple of the AD champions with like indirect nerfs to like buffs, which are indirect nerfs to a lot of them, so like Random and Zoman obviously losing 300 gold on cost, which makes it a lot more appealing of an item for tanks, alongside some of the bruisers in the jungle. Past this, Seekers also got 5 more armor. I don't see people rushing this. It's still kind of weak, but it definitely provides an option if they do need some sort of survivability into some of the AD options. So let's cover the tier list. To begin with, in the 0 to 10% presence mark, I'm going to put Yasuo, Renekton, and Cassante as the kind of like primary low pick AD options. You're only really going to see these champions either if they're being flexed down from the top lane, being Renekton and Cassante, or if they have certain pairings, which would be like Yasuo Diana, or Yasuo and some sort of heavy knock-up comp where you can really utilize this ultimate. Past this, I don't see these champions receiving a huge amount of play, but they are definitely there if they need a fallback AD options. Annie has been nerfed in the past, was kind of high. I believe she was the highest presence champion at MSI for, like, if you count both mid and support presence. She's been nerfed since then. Tibbers obviously receiving a durability update, which made him squishier at certain points of the game. Alongside this, Annie herself lost a bit of damage on the Q and the E. Overall, just not as kind of not going to have as high presence as she used to, but definitely still an option if teams do want to pick someone with a really good point and click CC and good on just relative DPS if you're building something like Leandries and just have Tibbers constantly out on the field. Cassiopeia is obviously is usually seen as a bit of a niche pick. You don't really see this champion a huge amount, even if it is very strong, as it's usually directed as a counter pick just towards certain matchups. I still don't believe we're going to see a huge amount of this champion, but it's there. People definitely pick it up. I know Nuclear Int plays a lot of Cassie. I know some of the other players of the tournament do play Cassie as well. I could see it breaking the 10 to 30 mark, but as it tends to be niche and there are other AP options in the pool at the moment, Cassie will probably stick around here. Corki, once again, picked very nichely. I don't think Corki's in a great spot at the moment, but pros do like picking this champion every so often into something like Vizier. It's there as an option. I don't think it was he's trying to play. Galio received the 20-second reduction on his ult. Overall, still not a great champion, still gets punished by certain aspects of his kit being long CDs, heavily telegraphed abilities, stuff like this. But overall, he's definitely in a better spot for if you're looking for a global presence kind of comp, where you can really utilize your ultimate alongside like a Nocturne, a Camille, get some sort of dive comp going. It's there if you do need it, but I don't think it would see a huge amount of play. Rise isn't actually in the worst spot he's been in. He got nerfed not too long ago when we had the Roa meta with him, but since then he has been buffed back up. Only pros kind of didn't really help back on the champion. Overall, I don't think the champ's going to suddenly see a shoot up and play, as there are other good mage options, but he is definitely there once again as an option for people to pick. Twisted Fate has received so many buffs over the year. Still not in a great spot, but definitely an option. Pros like going the Everfrost build, but then that tends to be outperformed by things like Ludens. I believe even like Night Harvester tends to outperform it, as he's no longer as mana restricted, but people will still go Everfrost on him, kind of just to secure the fact that he is very much a pick champion rather than someone who you look to do a lot of damage with. He does have 90% AP ratio on the cube, which is quite generous at this point. Overall, it's probably not going to say a huge amount of Twisted Fate. I could see some of the LEC mids playing it, and maybe someone like Showmaker, but for the most part, I don't see this champ being picked a lot. Seraph has seen a decent amount of play increase. I still don't think this will be enough to see him suddenly break any new thresholds, but he is definitely gonna see play. Like, pros do enjoy picking this champion into the likes of Azir, as he does have a good time into that matchup, and he's just pretty reliable as a champion at the moment, having more ult shots, having good damage, overall just quite nice of a champion. Zoe has received a decent amount of buffs as well, with the magic percentage on the magic percentage shred on the E being quite valuable. If we see Zoe, I wouldn't be surprised if we also see Zoe support. The champion has been played there a bit, has like a similar time to like Twitch, where you do want lots of gold for your items, but you're not too reliant on your levels. Overall, we might see some Zoe. It will probably be a very small amount, which is why she's in the 0 to 10% present market. Gragas is also going to be here. Gragas received the sustain nerf, which I've now talked about 3 times because I've done top jungle mid, and overall it hurts his ability to play in some of the lanes, which can really harass him. Overall, I still don't think we're going to see a huge amount of Gragas. If we do, it'll be very small amounts, which is why he's here. And Vex, who has been gaining a bit of popularity with some of the pros as like a good answer into some of the dash champions within the meta at the moment. Really good time into Yone, not too bad into Tristana. Pretty good into Yasuo, also pretty good into Jace. Good answer to like all the AD champions which people are currently playing. Just relatively reliable with the anti-dash mechanic. We'll probably only see her played in those circumstances. I don't think she's great as just a mage herself. I think she has lots of downfalls of not being as high range, being very much tied to the fact that she has to be able to snowball her ultimate to keep it going. But overall, still definitely probably going to see some play with the likes of dash champions such as Yone and Yasuo. Moving on to the 10 to 30 mark is Yone. Yone is going to be the primary AD option in this kind of tier, where we go Tristana, Jace, Yone, and then a couple others, being like Yas, Renekton, Cassante, and then maybe like Pantheon, Tryndamere, Aurelia, if they end up seeing any play. But Yone, 10 to 30 mark, still very good option if you're looking for a strong AD mid laner. Does a high amount of damage, quite reliable in that regard. Can struggle if behind, but people do enjoy playing this champion, so he is there. Akali received the Q energy buff on not too long ago, where it went from 130 to 90 to 110 to 90, which helped her early game being able to CS more reliably. Alongside that, I believe she received a just 5 flat damage on Q, which was also quite nice. Overall, just helps the champion out a decent amount, and people saw this, have started playing her a bit more. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a bit of Akali at Worlds alongside Lissandra. He'll receive the root duration buff, going from 1.5 to 1.65, and then I believe it scales. But Lissandra is in a pretty good spot at the moment. Really good into things like Rakan. We might see some Lissandra support if some people are wanting to pick it up. But Lissandra mid oftentimes just picked as a LeBlanc answer, and LeBlanc will probably see a bit of play. I don't think she will see a huge amount, as her AD build did get kind of stomped into the ground. Overall, it will probably be something along the lines of Kyrgyzstan into full AP. And then you go from there. That will probably be the core LeBlanc build. I don't see a huge amount of LeBlanc being played, and if she is and it doesn't work, then she might get dropped fairly early onto the tournament. But I do think some people will still pick it up, play it, and then see if it works and whether or not it has the reliability it needs. Sidus is going to be the final champion in this tier. Sidus oftentimes just comes out as an answer into teams with lots of good ultimates to steal. He can struggle into some AD matchups in the mid lane, especially if the ultimates aren't the greatest within the context of that game. He can struggle into Jace. Jace ultimate isn't the greatest to steal and can kind of be punishing if you are laning against him. Tristana has Buster Shot, which is quite nice, but can still really easily stomp Sidus within lane, especially if Sidus can't reliably get an E onto you. So overall, we'll probably see a small amount of Sidus into the likes of maybe Akali, and Ari and some of those other matchups. So moving on to 30-50, Talia is very much banned a lot at the moment and will probably continue to be banned a lot, but it's definitely a good mid-jungle flex. She has a lot of damage, good range, good reliability. Her ult is a really good map covering tool, meaning you can roam really easily to side lanes, look for tower dives, stuff like this. Makes her quite nice within the current meta, so we'll probably see a level of Talia. Syndra will receive 5 damage on Q, and people have gone kind of crazy for it. I know people are wanting to pick Syndra back up for a while, and this has kind of been the opportunity to really look at the champion and say like, oh yeah, we should probably consider picking it. I don't think she's in the greatest spot, and I do think she loses to some of the mages within the mid lane, but the reliability of the EQ combo, being able to have a long range CC, alongside that her high burst potential, or you can just continuously harass with Qs, being some sort of Leandri's Cosmic Lucidity's build, can give her options. I do think Orianna is probably going to see more play than Syndra, but I do think people definitely are looking to pick which champion back up. Nico is still in a really good spot, has really strong wave clear, good DPS, really good ultimate for team fights, and the stealth mechanic can be really valuable for looking for angles and just being able to do picks. Overall, it will mostly be Eastern teams, I believe, that pick Nico. I don't think she sees too much play in the West anymore, but definitely a good option there. Ahri, just because of her reliability and safeness within laning phase, it doesn't have the highest damage and is kind of reliant on hitting charm to output a lot of it, but pros do tend to go Everfrost and down that route where they do have additional CC within their kits. But the main kind of factor of this champion is she's very safe during laning phase. It's good pick, not the worst damage, but definitely lacking compared to some of the other mages, and has in the past, well, recently seen a decent amount of pro play, so should probably continue to see some Ahri. Jace is going to be the AD champion at the 50 to 70 mark. I believe Jace is a really strong pick at the moment, has good range, good poke, decent all-in, still struggles early on into the game and can get punished there. If he does fall behind that, it can be kind of hard to keep the Jace within tempo of the game, and yeah, that is kind of his main drawback. He did he is now primarily just a mid laner. We don't really see any Jace top, however he's still a flex option there, so people can still look to put him in the top lane, but overall it will mostly be mid lane Jace, and we'll still probably see a decent amount of this champion. Orianna hasn't seen any competitive play, and suddenly everyone's playing her, so there is a high chance that this could be wrong and Orianna's lowered down, or Orianna is pick or ban. But because we haven't really seen any sort of like Orianna hasn't been present all year in terms of competitive play, her buffs were pretty big, which is why people are suddenly playing her, receiving W damage, W mana cost down, R damage, AP ratio up, and I believe she had some passive buffs where it now scales better. But overall, yeah, the champion received so many buffs, and people have looked at the champion and like being very much kind of like eager to pick it up. So Orianna probably going to be the go-to AP champion at Worlds this year. Could be wrong though. However, I do think the champion's very strong in its current state. It has really good sustained damage. You can go builds like the Luden's Sorks, Shadow Flame, where you're really looking to burst people down. Of course, you still probably want to pick up the Archangels. I believe some people skip it, but like Archangel's still a really valuable item on her. The other build, of course, being Leandri's Lucids, and then yeah, Archangels. You can pick up Cosmic again, looking for just a CDR spam poke with your ult, Q, W, stuff like this. Overall, yeah, champion's a really good spot, really good team fighting, really good zone control, good damage, not too bad in laning phase either. So yeah, definitely going to see some Orianna. Azir received 2-second nerf on Q, but I don't think this is suddenly going to take him away from being one of the most present mid laners of Worlds. He's still in a pretty good spot. Honestly, at this point, like, nerfs towards Q aren't going to be anywhere near as punishing as they used to be, because he doesn't put points in this ability, and he's very much just going to be using it as a way of escape, and main harass would just come from putting the W down and then using the W for the amount of charges it has within range. Yeah, Q's cooldown will be punishing it'll be punishing mid-game when you do want to start looking to harass with your Q, and maybe you can't find the angles which you used to be able to. In that case, then yeah, he will definitely be weaker than he was before. But overall, it was already a high mana cost. It was very much going to be used as an escape tool, or like looking for lethal on someone. So overall, not too bad. Yeah, but that's kind of he's still in a really good strong. Still in a really strong spot at the moment. beats out a lot of mages, is relatively safe, good scaling, good team fighting, good control. Just, yeah, very good pick there. Tristana will probably be the highest presence mid laner at Worlds. She is going to be the primary AD pick, even with Randuin's buffs, Seeker's buffs, and Tristana losing a bit of magic resist in place of some armor. This champion's still going to be really high presence. Good wave clear with like the likes of Static Shiv, and just her natural ability to wave clear with E. Alongside that, her really good sieging, really good map control, good scaling, good early game, good amounts of range. Just, yeah, she has a decent amount of everything at the moment, and it puts her in a really good spot to just be picked as like a blind. She can still struggle into the likes of Syndra if Syndra does have the reliability of the EQ up. But she still will probably be as long as you're banning Syndra, it's still either picked or banned for most within the game. So yeah, that's kind of the idea of the top lane, the mid lane tier list. Of course, some of these other picks down here might see some play. Like we might see some Karma mid. Maybe someone picks the ASOL, like one of the minor regions during play-ins. I know some people have done that in the past. Alongside that, AP Cogmore does sometimes see play. If people are looking for AD options, there is Pantheon, there is Tryndamere. These do work. Veigar and Victor will might see some play as well. These champions have had times where they've popped up. Zillion mid sometimes sees play, and if people are looking to siege, then Ziggs is an option there. So yeah, that is the thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next one. Goodbye.